What's up, people? I am back for another video. Sorry about not doing Snakes on a Plane yesterday. I dozed off and I just couldn't get around doing it today. So I'll just save that for this weekend since I don't really have anything planned and there's nothing like coming out. I have no interest in seeing Fast 10 or whatever the fuck. So I'll just this weekend, we'll review it then. But today I am listing my eight films from 1985. This was a year that, a lot of good slashers, this is when the 80s was full on kicking in at this point. When you think 85, you're going to think my number two, Breakfast Club. Not Breakfast Club, which is on, it is on here though. Back to the Future. This was the movie that, like, when you think 1985, you do think this film. But, so that's gonna, I thought this was the list I made here was a really good one. Like, this wasn't hard. Like, the top four was pretty easy. But yeah, I'll admit, originally Commando, which is now my number 6, was my number 5. But then I just remembered Breakfast Club. I could not include that. That was a movie that, even though, yeah, it's more, y'all know, I'm more of an action guy and horror and stuff, but I really like that movie. It's a great coming of age story of different groups. Okay, I'll get more into that when we get into the list, but yeah. But yeah, I had fun making this one, so I can't wait for 86. Number 1's gonna be Aliens. I'll spoil that part. 86 is gonna be Aliens. Friday the 13th part 6. It's gonna be a fun list for 86 too. So, and then 87, that's gonna be the big one because 87, there was so much. So, but this year too. So, yeah, I can't wait till we get to it. But other than, sorry about the fucking noise. But this week, what I got planned is I'm doing this list today. Tomorrow, I'll be doing Moonraker. So another continuing on the Bond movies. On Wednesday, I'll be doing my Marvel movie pitch part 2. Thursday, I actually can't wait for this one. We're gonna start Mad Max, the Mad Max trilogy. So we're gonna be doing the first one, and it's been a minute since I've seen the first Mad Max, and I figure this is the perfect way to, because I feel like we've done not all of them, but a lot of Mel's little smaller movies. So I figure let's finally just dive right in and get right into his arguably his second biggest franchise after Lethal Weapon. So yeah, can't wait to get back into that. So I'll be doing the first Mad Max on Thursday, and then Friday, since I'm not doing American Reunion, I'll still watch it this week, and what I'll probably do is just give a quick thing, and like, how I've done in the past, where maybe like 5 minutes or something like that, I'll talk about it, but I'm not going to do a whole video on it. But I'll probably do that then, but I'll be doing since I am roasting the new Little Mermaid when it comes out, I figured why not. And I know this is normally a movie I don't normally review. It's Disney, but that's a big part of it. But makes sense since I'm gonna be roasting the new one, and I'm probably gonna reference the original. Makes sense to watch it again, so have like fresh eyes on it. So I'll be watching that this Friday, and I figured why not, since I'm rewatching it, why not just review it? So I'll be doing that Friday, and then Saturday or Sunday I'll be doing Snakes on a Plane. But other than that, let's dive right in. My number 8 is Nightmare on Elm Street Part 2. Or Nightmare on Elm Street 2. I know a lot of people, this is a lot of people's they put this often in one of their worst nightmare films. But for me, yeah, there's a lot of weird homoerotic shit. I'm not gonna deny that, and I kind of just overlooked that shit because I do like body horror a little bit, so I do like the body horror in it. Jesse's a decent lead. It's almost a nice little buffer between, before we see Nancy again in Nightmare 3. So that's why it works for me. And I like it's in the same house. And I thought there was still some solid creepy moments. And in my opinion, of like besides the first one, I love Robert Englund's performance as Freddy in this one. To me, he is fucking scary in this. And I thought he had some good lines. I mean, you got the body, I got the brain, you know. And if anyone's gonna possess a person, I can buy Freddy doing it. And even though they do break the rules a lot, and there's not a lot of necessarily dream sequences. I think that's another criticism this film really gets. I do like that opening where it's on the bus, and then the bus, like the environment changes. The bus is now like teetering, and Freddy's coming to kill the kids. I mean, I will agree there needed to be a bit more dream sequences, but overall, I do like it. And the the love interest was fine, and relatively, like, I thought it was still relatively creepy, and it had the creepiness of the Nightmare films. Yes, there's a lot of homoerotic shit in it, but it had some good body horror moments, so that's why I had to put it on the list. Actually, before I know, I skipped right over my honorable mention, but my honorable mention, I guess technically this would be number 9 now. So, um, is Friday the 13th Part 5. This is one that it's another one where a lot of people do not like, but it's what they tried to go a different direction. They wanted to make Tommy a killer, and I didn't necessarily care for the interpretation, but rewatching it in more recent years, I actually was fine with the interpretation. This was supposed to be like a couple years after, like he's a bit older, so like I guess a decade or so after, the events of the fourth film. So it's like that really fucked with him. So that's why I think they were trying to give him that. And I thought the actor did a good job of being on edge. Like they really did a good job with that. The kills were decent. It was a solid slasher. Like I think if you just look at it as a slasher and take the Friday the 13th stuff out of it, it's a solid slasher. Roy, the reveal was whatever, and there were some things where, like, I get it, they had to do it for the reveal because they wanted to make you think it was Jason, but how the fuck did he survive some of this shit? But whatever. But you do get a little bit of Jason, and I really do think this film does a decent job of getting into Tommy's psyche. I think the best Tommy is Tom Matthews, who's going to play him in a movie that's going to be in my list for next year, 1986. Friday the 13th Part 6. I thought he was a better Tommy. He's probably the best Tommy of the three. I like Corey Feldman, but I think of the three, he just stood out to me the most. But I thought he did this guy did a really good job. He carried the movie solid, and Reggie's a fun little character to follow too. Yeah, so I had to mention that. But now number 7, since I did 8 and 9. Number 7 is Fright Night. This is one, like rewatching it recently, but I really love it. It's classic 80s horror, and in the era of like slashers, and I do love slashers. The fact that they brought back a classic, monster like a vampire made it work, because this was pre Lost Boys, and fucking Jerry Dandridge, Chris Sarandon kills it. And, it's a, cry wolf kind of movie where Charlie Brewster thinks his neighbor's a vampire, and, he has to try to save his friends and save his girlfriend, and the soundtrack is great. It's just an all-around great 80s movie, and rewatching it recently, really, I'm definitely going to start adding it to the list for, like, horror in October, like my October list. Sorry for the fucking noise, guys. But yeah. the setting, just Chris Sarandon specifically kills it. Is he brought the vampire back, because vampire is relatively up until this point. Horror started really getting dominated by the slashers. I mean, there's a lot of even just looking at 85 horror, there's a lot of them. So, but yeah, I could not mention this one. So. But that's my number 7. My number 6, Commando. Prime Arnold, man. I always watched this movie as a kid. This was one just Arnold just destroying shit. This machine guns, rocket launchers, just trying to save his daughter. Bennett was a great bad guy. And that's what it is. It's just a rescue mission to save his daughter. Granted, it's Alyssa Milano, but I love it. It's just Arnold at his best. John Matrix, such an 80s name. And it's like, this is one I'm actually going to review it for sure at some point. Maybe like summer, I'm thinking. We can kind of start diving into more 80s action. But yeah, this is Arnold at his best, man. Kicking ass. Just, I love the action sequences. Even the scene where he's just fucking strapping up, just putting his gun away. It's like, you're just ready. Putting the makeup on. The camo on. It's like, dude, he's ready. I said makeup. Holy shit. But yeah, it's an awesome film, man. I definitely put it on just if I want some adrenaline. Fun 80s soundtrack, yeah. Commando's great. My number 5, that was originally my number 5, but the fact that I forgot about this movie is kind of insulting. Breakfast Club. One of my favorite John Hughes movie. I know a lot of people like 16 Candles. 16 Candles is fine, but this movie, the fact that you just got all these clicks, you got the jock, you got the athlete, or the athlete is what they say, the athlete, the brain, the basket case, like the weird girl, the criminal, and then the popular girl, all just coming together, because they all got Saturday detention, and, Principal Vernon was a fucking fun asshole principal character, and that scene he had with Judd Nelson, is so good. And they all have to write a report, and then they just throughout, and the fact that they can make an hour and a half a whole day. That's what basically this movie is, essentially a whole day of them in detention. Them getting to know each other and getting past their stereotypes of each other. It's just an all around fun film, and you even get love out of it. And then you get, my opinion, the song that defined the 80s. Don't You Forget About Me. Like, when I think 80s song, just in general, I think that song. It's just, yeah, man. It's such a classic, and the fact that I forgot to mention it is pretty sad. But yeah, I just love it. It's a fun film. Definitely put it on every now and then. Emilio Estevez. You got just a fun cast. I've said it. I'm not a big Molly Ringwald fan. I find her annoying on a lot of movies. But she's good in this. And then that ending, fucking, the criminal reading the report, and then he's walking off in the distance, raises his fist. Don't, stop. Don't you forget about me starts playing. Yeah, I just love it. So I had to put that as my number 5. My number 4 is The Goonies. This is one of those movies that is just, this was my childhood. I watched this a lot as a kid, and just these group of kids coming together. You have a young Sean Astin, you have Key, or the actor plays Data. You might reckon, I will fuck up his name. I'll just say fucking Short Round. Yeah, Short Round's in this. You got Josh Brolin. You got fucking just a lot of young upcoming actors that and just these group of kids coming together because they're getting evicted and they have to find the old pirate ship and they find this treasure, and you have to deal with these criminals, and then this is where we meet Chunk. I mean, classic character. Just you think, yeah, he's this ugly sloth kind of character, and then you and yeah, Sloth. That's his name, actually. Sorry, fucked up his name. Sloth. And yeah, it's classic movie. They defeat the bad guys. They manage to get the treasure. It's just a fun adventure movie, like that. I feel like it's definitely generational because I watched this in like the 2000s and it still hit. It still hits now. Like this is just an all around fun movie. Like it's a classic adventure film, so I had to put it on there as my number 4. I mean, yeah, and then it's really all I can say. I had fun reviewing it. I just always love going back to it. But now, top 3. My number 3, Rambo First Blood Part 2. This is my favorite Rambo sequel. Well, I could see an argument for Rambo 4 or Rambo as what it's called. But to me, this one was Rambo Unleashed. Like, the way they were able to blend, because you still have that great storytelling of that first one and that, story and PTSD of John. Like, John just wants to live a normal life. That's almost like what he wants to do. He just wants to live a normal life. Like, but yeah, Major Troutman. I love his relationship with Troutman throughout these movies. That's always been my thing with the Rambo movies. Well, up until 3, really. But Major Troutman gets him out of jail because he's still in jail from what happened in the first movie, and this is where you meet Murdoch, and you can tell he's already a slimy dude who ends up fucking him over. But we finally get to see Rambo fuck some shit up because he fucked some shit up in the first movie, but we never really we didn't get to see him kill anybody. So we got to see him just unleashed. Like, he got to just fuck shit up. He saved some soldiers left over from the war, but then he gets fucked over by Murdoch. You have Martin Kovac in this. Kreese. Kreese is in this. It's fucking great. I said Martin Kovac. Martin Cove. Holy shit. Fucking names up. Martin Cove is in this. And granted, he's more of a minor character, but it's cool seeing him in it. And yeah, and Maitland is Maitland from Beverly Hills Cop is the bad guy in this. And that scene where Rambo, after being tortured, is forced to call in the radio, and he goes on the radio and says, "I'm coming for you to Murdoch," after fucking him over. And yeah, throughout this film, he's working with this girl who works for the country, and he starts falling in love with her. She wants to go with him to America. And then, yeah, she ends up getting killed, and the face Rambo makes, man, it's like, looks could kill. That is it. Like, that stare. And, yeah, he raises hell. I fucking love Rambo First Blood Part 2. It's like they were able to still blend, like, that epic storytelling of the first one where, it's an action movie, but it's not just full-on just action, balls to the wall action. But then you do have the action. It's balls to the wall. Rambo's got a fucking light machine gun, just light motherfuckers up or with an arrow. I fucking love it. I had to put it on here. My number 2 is arguably a lot of people's number 1 for this year. Back to the Future. This is probably my favorite time travel movie. I think this is how you do it. The chemistry alone between Michael J. Fox and Christopher Lloyd is, you could argue, is probably, if you want to say like the best duo in film, I wouldn't disagree with you if you said them. I actually might even say them. That I'm like just off the top of my head. The chemistry of these two. I mean, in all of them, but in this one especially, it's just a special movie. It's simple. The DeLorean, we get the DeLorean. The effects. This is a film I always go back to. him having to go to 1955 and Marty meeting his parents, and because he has to save Doc, who ended up getting shot, in 1985. I love it. And it's just a self-contained movie. You have a fun bad guy in Biff. Yeah, it's just an all around awesome movie. That like this is one I always go back to. Just and how they also do a good job. Like when you're in the 1955 scenes, you feel like you're in 1955. It doesn't feel like, oh, this is just 1985, but with 55 aesthetic. But no, they actually did a good job at making you feel like it. And then the soundtrack is great. Power of Love's playing. It's just, and then Marty has a girlfriend with Jennifer. Like all around, just fun characters that you just meet. Marty and Doc's chemistry. That's what makes it for me. I mean, besides everything else, I love the DeLorean. They explain how it works. They try to explain it in a way that they don't make you feel like they don't try to like give a long drawn out exposition. They like show you how it works and make you understand, but in a way you can by showing in a way too. But yeah, all around, just this is one of those movies like I don't disagree with people who put this as their number one, but for me, my number one is a bit more personal. Rocky IV. Rocky IV to me, I don't know, what made this movie for me. Not just it's a good movie. It has the whole element of Apollo's death hits for me. That's why I have it as number one. And I know Stallone has said recently, or relatively recently, when he's promoting his director's cut of Rock, or the I guess I'll say director's cut of Rocky IV, which I've seen, is really good. I prefer the theatrical. I don't like certain changes. Granted, there are certain things they did add. I like that you have more Apollo and more his funeral's much longer. We got to see his Apollo's coach Duke actually have his fucking speech was awesome. But then they changed like the No Easy Way Out thing. They made it black and white, which I didn't like. I didn't need that changed. And I also prefer the fight in the original. I know some people have complained about the machine gun sounds. I think it works better. Because this is an idealized 80s movie. That's how I look at it. So it is a bit over the top. So yeah, the punches are going to be like machine guns, It's not going to just be a regular punch sound. The Rocky's movies are... The earlier ones, I'll agree, but this one was just... And it works. And I don't think it goes full-on ridiculous. I still think you have... Apollo's death hits, man. And then fucking Drago is my favorite antagonist. If he dies, he dies. And, yeah. The soundtrack is so good, man. The soundtrack alone, it fits the movie. Like, Burning Heart is like almost explaining the movie in the song, in the song. And No Easy Way. What's one of my favorite scenes is when a Rocky gets in the car, No Easy Way Out's playing, and fucking he's thinking about basically like the events of the first three movies with Apollo. It's like you see their relationship and what Apollo meant to him. And yeah, I fucking love this movie. Even the training scene, Heart's on Fire. He gets on the top of the mountain, he screams Drago's name, and then that fight is so good. Like, and Rocky takes a beating, but then he eventually and then he starts gaining Russia's cheers because they start respecting his endurance, and he ends up winning. And then the speech is a little cheesy, but it's still great. If we can change, we can all change. Yeah, I love it. I watch this film all the fucking time, man. Like, this is... I of the Rocky movie, it's my favorite Rocky movie. Objectively, I've always said this. Objectively, the first one's the best one. But Rocky IV, to me, just... is so good. And... I mean, even the build-up to the fight with Apollo, with Drago. When he's holding Apollo, he looks up at Drago. I always joke and say like he has the Rambo eyes. It's like, and then yeah, that scene with Adrian. I gotta mention that scene with Adrian. You know, yeah, she didn't have faith with him initially, and then she came to Russia, and then just that scene where they didn't even have to say a lot. They just said little things like, "No matter what." She just says, "I'm with you, no matter what," and then he says it back, and then they kiss. Simple. They kept it because it's like how long they've known each other. It just, yeah, I fucking love Rocky Four. It's just, y'all know, it's such an awesome one. I like, I can only say so much good about this one. But yeah, I mean, all these movies I listed are all great. But yeah, I can't wait to do 1986 because I mean, Aliens. You have The Fly. You, Friday the 13th Part 6, which in my opinion is my favorite Friday the 13th. But yeah, and some more. I definitely will be looking. And yeah, man, 86 and 87 are gonna. I think when we get to the later half of the 80s, there could potentially some of them can be 10. I know 87 for sure will be 10. And yeah, tomorrow I'll be reviewing Moonraker, which I can't. I'll admit I don't remember this one as much. So, yeah, I can't wait to review that one. But other than that, I don't like got much going on besides that. So, cheers and had fun making. I'm really having fun with this series, making fun of making fun. Sorry, making my favorite lists of the year of every year. I can't wait till we get to the 90s too. I think 90s will be fun. But yeah, I've been having fun with this series so far. So other than that, I'm gonna cheers and yeah, and I'm out. Peace.